You are playing a money game where the wealthy know the rules and you do not. Many Americans believe that earning more money will eventually fix everything, yet they still live paycheck to paycheck, credit cards constantly near their limits, and savings accounts barely growing. The frightening part is not a lack of effort. It is that they are playing a financial game where wealthy people already understand the hidden rules while they do not even realize those rules exist. Wealth is rarely built through a lucky break. It is built through 6 financial rules repeated so consistently they become instinct. What is surprising is that most ordinary people have never truly learned how these rules work, or they have only heard them as vague advice and ignored them. If you are working hard, earning a decent income, but still feel like money is never enough, chances are you are operating outside the rule set wealthy Americans use every day to protect and grow their assets. These 6 rules will permanently change how you make decisions about money. If you watch this video until the end, you will not receive vague advice like save more or invest smarter. Instead, you will clearly understand 6 specific financial rules that wealthy Americans apply daily to control their money behavior. These are not elite principles reserved for the ultra-rich or financial professionals. They are simple behavioral rules designed around how the human brain truly responds to money, emotion, and risk. Each rule in this video addresses a common behavioral mistake that causes ordinary people to grow poorer over time, even as income increases. You will see why wealthy people do not spend like you, do not use credit like you, and do not view investing the way you do. More importantly, you will see how they turn these rules into real action through very small decisions repeated consistently over many years. Most importantly, the final rule is the deepest foundation behind everything wealthy people do with money. If you truly understand and apply rule number 6, the first 5 become far more powerful. That is why staying until the end matters. Because the most important part of this video is not at the beginning, but in how all the rules connect into one complete system. Why intelligent people keep making the same financial mistakes. If you have ever wondered why highly intelligent people with good education and strong incomes still struggle with money, the answer lies in behavior, not knowledge. Personal finance is not an IQ test. It is a test of emotional control in an environment filled with temptation. The human brain is designed to prioritize safety and short-term rewards, not to optimize wealth over 20 or 30 years. This is why even people who understand financial theory still make poor decisions when they are tired, stressed, or overly confident. Wealthy Americans understand this weakness deeply. They do not believe they will always be disciplined, rational, or clear-minded. Instead of trying to defeat emotion every day, they build rules that prevent emotion from entering the decision at all. This is the core difference between the wealthy and everyone else. One side relies on willpower, the other relies on systems. In the next sections, you will see that these 6 financial rules are not meant to make you perfect. They are meant to help you avoid the most common mistakes that happen when money and emotion collide. And as we move toward the final rule, you will understand why wealthy people do not make more decisions than you do, yet end up with dramatically different results. Rule 1 stops impulsive spending before it starts. The first rule wealthy Americans follow is not about saving every dollar. It is about controlling the most dangerous moment in financial behavior, the moment emotion appears and a decision is about to be made. The 24-hour rule sounds simple, but it strikes directly at the greatest weakness of ordinary spenders. When you want to buy something non-essential, you must wait a full 24 hours before purchasing. This pause is not meant for deep analysis. It is meant to allow emotion to cool and logic to return. Most people believe they can control themselves and spend responsibly. In reality, advertising, limited time offers, and the idea of rewarding yourself are all engineered to make you act immediately. Wealthy people understand this. They do not argue with emotion. They remove its authority. After 24 hours, many items that once felt necessary suddenly lose their importance. These moments of not buying, repeated over many years, create a massive difference in net worth. This rule does not make you poorer by denying joy. It protects your money for decisions that truly matter. And this is only the first rule. In the next part, we will look at the rule wealthy people consider the foundation of everything they build. It sounds familiar, yet most people have never applied it correctly. And as we move forward, you will see why all paths lead toward the final rule, the one that ultimately determines whether you truly become wealthy. Rule 2 determines whether you ever build real wealth. The second rule wealthy Americans follow is pay yourself first. And this is where many people misunderstand it from the beginning. They assume it simply means saving more. In reality, its power comes from order, not amount. Most people save whatever is left after spending. They pay rent, cover bills, spend on daily life, then see what remains. Almost always, nothing does. Each month begins with good intentions and ends with the same familiar disappointment. Wealthy people reverse this process. The moment income arrives, they pay themselves first by automatically transferring a portion into savings or investments. No thinking, no negotiation, no waiting until the end of the month. Once the money is separated immediately, all spending decisions adjust to the new reality. This does not create the sense of deprivation many fear. Instead, it creates a sense of control. A common example is Americans with stable incomes who reach their 40s with nearly empty retirement accounts, not because they lacked money, but because they never prioritized themselves in the flow of money. Wealthy people understand that if you do not prioritize your future, the moment money appears, the present will always find a way to spend it. This rule lays the foundation for all the others. When you pay yourself first, you begin building wealth quietly and consistently. In the next section, we will explore a rule that allows the same dollar to work far more efficiently for the wealthy than it does for everyone else. This is where the difference begins to accelerate and where the path clearly leads toward the final and most powerful rule. Rule 3 allows the wealthy to borrow more cheaply for the same life. The third rule wealthy Americans follow is about how they use credit, not whether they use it at all. The 30% credit utilization rule is something most people have never had clearly explained. They believe that paying on time is enough. But the credit system does not only look at whether you pay, it looks at how dependent you are on credit. This is the critical difference. Wealthy individuals consistently keep their credit card usage below 30% of available limits, not because they do not need credit, but because high usage signals risk to the system. When you regularly use most of your available credit, even if you pay it off, the system views you as financially strained. The result is higher interest rates, worse loan terms, and a higher cost of living over time. Ordinary people treat high credit limits as an extension of income. When money runs short, they rely on credit without realizing they are quietly increasing future costs. A car, a home, or even a personal loan can end up costing tens of thousands of dollars more simply because of years of poor credit usage. Wealthy people do not use credit to survive. They use it to optimize. They keep utilization low, pay consistently, and allow the credit system to work in their favor rather than against them. And when you step back, you see that this rule does more than reduce borrowing costs. It preserves control during critical financial moments. In the next part, we will enter a rule that sounds opposite to what most people consider safe. A rule that explains why wealthy people dislike holding excessive cash and how that directly affects how fast they build wealth. When you understand this, you will see why every path in this video leads toward the final rule, the one that determines long-term outcomes. Rule 4 keeps wealthy money working even when they are not. The fourth rule wealthy Americans follow is never hold excess cash. And this is where many people feel uncomfortable. From a young age, we are taught that holding cash is safe. The more money in the bank, the safer we feel. Wealthy people view cash very differently. They do not see cash as a long-term asset, but as a short-term tool for managing liquidity and risk. The reason is simple. Cash does not stand still. Inflation quietly erodes its value year after year. As living costs rise, every dollar not invested becomes weaker without you noticing. Wealthy people understand that the greatest risk is not market volatility, but leaving money idle for too long without creating new value. A common example is Americans who keep tens of thousands of dollars in savings accounts for many years out of fear of investing. They feel safe, but later realize that money buys far less than it once did. Meanwhile, those who invested steadily into growth assets accepted short-term volatility and protected their purchasing power over time. Wealthy people still hold cash, but only enough for true emergencies. The rest is placed where it can grow. They do not try to time the market or wait for perfect conditions. They simply make sure their money always has a job. This rule does not encourage recklessness. It forces you to separate the feeling of safety from real financial protection. And once you understand this, you begin to see how wealthy people prioritize money very differently from everyone else. In the next part, we will look at the rule that accelerates wealth by reversing a habit most people follow incorrectly. This is a critical transition before we reach the final and most powerful rule. Rule 5 reverses the order and puts the wealthy years ahead. The fifth rule wealthy Americans follow sounds simple, but is extremely difficult without a system. Invest before spending. Most people say they will invest once they have leftover money. In reality, money is rarely left over. Life always finds ways to fill every gap in a budget with expenses that feel reasonable at the time. As a result, investing is pushed to the bottom, and the future is repeatedly sacrificed for the present. Wealthy people do the opposite. They invest before they spend. The moment income appears, a portion moves directly into investments without hesitation. Once investing comes first, spending is forced to adapt to what remains. This creates a powerful behavioral effect. You do not need extreme discipline or harsh budgeting. The order itself creates discipline. A common example is people who delay investing until their income feels high enough. But as income rises, lifestyle rises with it. Wealthy people understand that if investing is not locked in from the start, no income level ever feels sufficient. By investing first, they allow time to do the heavy lifting for them, an advantage most people lose. This rule represents a clear acceleration point in the financial journey. When you invest first, all previous rules become more powerful. This is often the moment people begin to notice a real shift in their cash flow. But even this is not the deepest principle. In the next part, we arrive at the final rule, rule number 6. This rule is not just about behavior. It defines how wealthy people view risk, time, and volatility. If you understand this rule, the first 5 no longer feel separate. They connect into one complete system. This is the most important part of the entire video, and the reason staying until the end matters. Rule 6 explains why the wealthy do not panic when others do. The 6th rule wealthy Americans follow is the 5-year rule, and it is the deepest rule in the entire system. It does not tell you what to buy or sell. It tells you how to view time when your money faces risk. Ordinary people judge investments over days, weeks, or months. When markets move, emotion rushes in and forces action. These short-term reactions destroy long-term results. Wealthy people view all risky investments through a minimum 5-year lens. If they are not willing to hold an investment for at least 5 years, they do not invest at all. This rule removes the need to predict markets, worry about short-term movements, or make decisions under emotional pressure. Time becomes the buffer that protects them from severe behavioral mistakes. Many Americans sold their investments during major market downturns only to watch markets recover afterward. Not because they lacked intelligence, but because they lacked a long enough time horizon to withstand volatility. Wealthy people do not avoid volatility. They prepare for it with time. They know the greatest risk is not price movement, but being forced to sell too early. The 5-year rule allows wealthy people to remain calm when others panic. And that calm allows them to harness the greatest advantage in investing, letting time work on their behalf. This is why rule number 6 always comes last. Without long-term thinking, the first 5 rules collapse under pressure. If you remember only one thing, remember this. The 6 financial rules you have just heard are not shortcuts to quick wealth. They are a behavioral system wealthy Americans use to protect themselves from the costly mistakes the human brain is naturally wired to make. The 24-hour rule stops emotional spending. Pay yourself first ensures wealth is built before money disappears. The 30% rule keeps borrowing costs low. Avoiding excess cash prevents silent loss of value. Investing before spending allows time to work for you. And the 5-year rule holds everything together when markets become unstable. The greatest difference between wealthy people and everyone else is not knowledge. It is persistence with simple actions long enough to see results. Ordinary people chase new strategies whenever they feel uncertain. Wealthy people return to their system and repeat what has proven effective. If you apply these 6 rules for a few weeks, your finances will feel less chaotic. If you maintain them for a year, your cash flow becomes clearer. But if you stay with them for 5 or 10 years, the difference becomes dramatic. This is the advantage wealthy people always have, not because they started smarter, but because they stayed longer. And that is the most important message of this video. Wealth is not created by one perfect decision. It is created by hundreds of correct decisions repeated quietly over time. If you begin applying even one rule today and keep it long enough, you are already ahead of many others. This is not the end. It is the beginning of a new way of thinking about money and the moment where the path of the wealthy quietly separates from the crowd. Why most viewers will never apply what they just heard. There is an uncomfortable truth that very few financial videos say out loud. Most viewers will agree with everything they just heard, feel inspired for a few minutes, and then return to their old habits without changing anything. Not because they are lazy or unintelligent, but because they underestimate the power of environment and routine. Knowledge does not automatically turn into action. Without a clear decision immediately after learning, everything you just absorbed is quickly replaced by tomorrow's familiar priorities. Wealthy people do not wait for motivation. They lock in action while emotion is still fresh. They do not attempt to apply all 6 rules at once. They choose the smallest controllable point and turn it into a habit. Once one rule becomes automatic, they add the next. This is how systems are built, not in a day, but through a series of small, decisive choices. If you simply treat this video as interesting content and scroll to the next one, you will remain like most people. But if you pause and ask which rule you will begin with today, you have already stepped into a different category. And the interesting thing is that wealthy people always start at this exact moment, the moment they decide not just to understand, but to act. In the final part, there will be no new rules. Instead, you will be given a simple way to turn everything you just heard into one concrete action today. Not overwhelming, not complicated, but powerful enough to create real change if you maintain it. One small action today determines where you stand 5 years from now. If you are waiting for a perfect moment to change your financial life, that moment will never arrive. Wealthy people understand that the difference is not created by dramatic decisions, but by one small action taken at the right time and repeated long enough. That is why this final part is not about teaching more knowledge, but about helping you close this video with one clear and practical step. Choose one rule from the 6 you just learned. Not the one that sounds the best, but the one you can start today without major changes. It might be waiting 24 hours before buying something unnecessary. It might be automatically paying yourself first the moment income arrives. It might be keeping credit usage below 30%. Just one rule, but implemented seriously. Wealthy people do not become wealthy by doing everything at once. They become wealthy by not quitting halfway. When one small action becomes a habit, it opens the door to the next. And when these habits stack over many years, the result is no longer small. If you look back in 5 years and see your finances in the same place, it will not be because you lacked opportunity. It will be because you did not start early enough. This video cannot change your life, but the action you choose after watching it can. And this exact moment, when you decide to start, even very small, is where the path of the wealthy and the path of everyone else begin to separate.